Alright, today is 5-7. This is day 1. We have 2 objectives for today. We want to be able to graph a line using slope-intercept form, and then we want to be able to write a linear equation in slope-intercept form. You're going to need graph paper and regular notebook paper for this lesson. It says if a line has slope m and a y-intercept b, then the line is described by the equation y equals mx plus b. You don't have to write anything on this slide down. We just want to take a minute to introduce what we're doing today. So we're looking at y equals mx plus b, and we're going to graph using this form. Any linear equation can be written in slope-intercept form by solving for y and simplifying, and we're going to have to do that with a couple of our examples today. In this form, you can immediately see the slope and the y-intercept. Also, you can quickly graph a line when the equation is written in slope-intercept form, because again, you're given the y-intercept and the slope, and you can use that in order to graph. Go ahead and write number 1. We're going to do number 1 on graph paper. Alright, this is number 1. Go ahead and write this number 1 part and this part on your notebook paper, and then just have your graph paper handy. On number 1, we have a slope of -2/5 and a y-intercept of 4. So they're not giving us the y equals mx plus b yet. They're just giving us a slope and a y-intercept, and we're going to graph that. So here the y-intercept is our begin and the slope is our move. So we're going to we're going to begin and we're going to move. So we're going to begin with our 4. That's our begin, our y-intercept. So on the y-axis we're going to find 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to put a dot there. And then our slope is our rise over our run or our move. So the -2/5, the top part is our rise, the bottom part is our run. And I'm going to go ahead and put the negative with the 2 first, and then we're going to move it around and put the negative with the 5. So we're going to rise -2 and run 5. So that means I'm going to go down 2. Since it's -2 and since it's +5, I'm going to go to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a dot. Then I'm going to rewrite this as 2/-5, which is going to tell me that the 2 is positive, so I'm going to go up 2. The 5 is negative, so I'm going to go left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a dot there, and now I'm going to take some sort of straight edge, either the side of a piece of paper or a ruler, and I'm going to draw a line through those 2 points. Alright, so I'm going to take my ruler, make sure it's going through my 3 points. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to make sure I have arrows at both ends. Okay, so there's number 1. Make sure you have all that written down before you move on. All right, go ahead and write to number 2. We have a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of -1/2. All right, so the slope is going to be our m. So our m is going to be 4. And our y-intercept is going to be our b, which is -1/2. Whoops, move that graph paper out of the way for you. All right, so our m is 4 because that's our slope. Our b is our y-intercept, so that's -1/2. And we can remember that the m is your move and the b is your begin. So we're going to begin at -1/2 and we're going to move with our slope. And with our slope, that's our rise over our run. So it's 4, and anytime there's not a bottom part of the fraction, I can always put over 1. So I'm going to say 4/1 for our rise over our run. So now I'm going to graph. I'm going to begin at -1/2 on the y-axis. That's my y-intercept. So I'm going to start here, and -1/2 is between 0 and -1. It's going to be right here in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and put my dot there. And then my move says to rise 4 and run 1. So from here I'm going to go up 4. So going up 1 would leave me in the middle of 0 and 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. is going to be right here. So then I'm going to move to the right one because that's a positive 1. And again, notice that I'm still halfway between 2 points, just like I was when I did my y-intercept here. All right, another way to write 4 over 1 is to say negative 4 over negative 1, and that's how we can get another point going the other way. So for positive 4 over 1, I went up 4 and right 1. So negative 4, negative 1 means I'm going to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go to the left 1, and I'm going to put a dot there. Once I've got 3 points, and you can always do more than that, but you need to have at least 3. I'm going to put my ruler down. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to have arrows at both ends of that line. Move this over so you can see the entire graph. There you go. Please make sure you have all that written before you move on. All right, here's number 3. Go ahead and write it down. Y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So now they're giving us the y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to remember that this is y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to pick out my m and I'm going to pick out my b. My m is the number in front of the x, so here it's 1/2. My b is the number on the end, so that number is 1. So I have my m of being 1/2 and my b as being 1. And we remember that m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And again, the m is for move and the b is for begin. So I'm going to begin at 1 and I'm going to move with my 1 over 2, which is my rise over my run. So my rise over my run is my m, so that's 1/2. It's lined up here so you can see it. There we go. All right, I'm going to begin with my 1. So on my y-axis, it's always the y-axis, I'm going to find the 1. So positive 1 is right here. So that's where I'm going to begin my line, and then I'm going to move with my slope. So it's going to tell me to rise 1 and run 2. Since it's a positive 1, I'm going to go up 1. Since it's a positive 2, I'm going to go right 2, and I'm going to put another dot. And then again, I can rewrite this as negative 1 over negative 2. To get my other point, because 2 negatives make a positive. And negative 1 tells me to go down 1, and negative 2 tells me to go left 2. So again, once you have at least 3 points, you could keep going, and you could go up 1 and over 2 again, or you could go down 1 and left 2 again to get a couple more points to make your line a little bit more accurate. Then you're going to draw your line going through those points. And again, please make sure you have your arrows at both ends of that line. And also, it's always important to go back and check. My slope here in my move was a positive 1/2, which means that it's positive. So left to right, my line should be going up, and it is. If you'll just check that, it'll keep you from making silly mistakes, and it'll make sure that you went in the correct direction when moving with your slope. Please make sure that you have all of number 3 down before you move on. All right, go ahead and write down number 4. We have negative 2x minus y equals 3. Now this one's a little bit more difficult because it doesn't look like y equals mx plus b. So we have to get it into that form and make it look like that first by getting this y right here by itself. So to get the y by itself, I need to move this negative 2x. And since it's negative, I'm going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides. And also this minus y, I'm actually going to change this to plus a negative, and I'm going to put a 1 right here just so that I don't forget to bring that down as a negative 1y. So it cancels here. I bring this down as negative 1y equals, and then I have 2x plus 3. Again, I can't actually add the 3 and the 2 because the 2 has an x and the 3 does not, so I list it as 2x plus 3. Then I need to move the negative 1, so I'm going to divide everything here by negative 1. And y equals negative 2x. either plus a negative 3 or minus 3, however you want to write that. I'm going to leave it as plus negative 3 so that I make sure and see my y-intercept as a negative. So now I have it in y equals mx plus b form. So I can pick out my m and I can pick out my b, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. My m is negative 2 because that's the number in front of the x. My b is negative 3 because that's the number on the end. Again, my m is for move, my b is for begin. So I'm going to begin on the y-axis at negative 3, and I'm going to move with negative 2, and I'm going to make that negative 2 over 1. So that means I'm going to rise negative 2, and I'm going to run 1. All right, so now I'm ready to graph. All right, make sure that you are working down the page on your graph paper. So again, I'm going to begin at negative 3. So on my y-axis, I'm going to find negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. And I'm going to put a dot at the negative 3 on the y-axis. And then my move tells me to rise negative 2 and run 1. So that tells me to go down 2 and write 1. I can also switch this and say 2 over negative 1. And I can move the negative to the bottom, which tells me that I can go up 2 and left 1. And again, you need to have at least 3 points. If I wanted to make a few more, I could do that, just to make my line a little bit more accurate. Go ahead and draw your line, going through your points. Make sure you have arrows at both ends of that line. And again, it's always good to go back and check. Here my slope or my move was negative 2. So since it was negative left to right, this line should be going down. And it is, so we did that correctly. Please make sure that you have all that written before you move on.
You don't have it all showing. There you go. The negative 3 was cut off.
Okay. There we go.
All right, we're going to look at number 5 now. Number 5 says 2 over 5x plus y equals negative 1. So write that down. 2/5 x plus y equals negative 1. The first thing we have to do here is solve for y. So we're simply going to not panic because there's a fraction in the problem. We're just going to move our 2/5 x to the other side of the problem. So we're going to subtract 2/5 x minus 2/5 x. Okay, these two cancel here, and we're left with, on this side of the problem, y equals, and over here I have my negative 2/5 x and my negative 1. They do not combine because they are not like terms, and because I want to write this in y equals mx plus b, I'm going to put my negative 2/5 first. Negative 2/5 x minus 1. I could have also written that as negative 2/5 x plus a negative 1. Now, I'm going to look at what this means in the context of my graph. It means that my m, or my move, is negative 2 over 5, and my b, or begin, is negative 1. So let's look at a graph. For number 5, you are going to begin at the negative 1, so come to the 0 and go down 1 and make a point. That's where we begin. That's our first point. Now we're going to move negative 2 over 5. So I'm going to go down 2 and over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make a point. And then I'm going to do the opposite and go up 2 and then negative 5, so back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make a point. And now I'm going to take my ruler and connect my points. Make sure that you have all of that down before you move on. All right, let's do number 6. Number 6 says negative 4x plus y equals 3. Negative 4x plus y equals 3. So again, I'm getting y by itself, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 4x on both sides. That leaves me with y equals 4x and 3 are not like terms, they will not combine. So I'm going to say 4x plus 3. Now I know that my move, my m, is 4. But because it's slope, I like to write it as a fraction, so I'm going to write this as 4 over 1 because that's the same thing as 4. And then my b, or begin, is going to be 3. So on my graph, I'm going to begin at the positive 3. So let's go to the 0. Count up, 1, 2, 3, and that's where I'm going to begin. I'm moving 4 over 1. They're both positive, so up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, make my point. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go down 4 and back 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back 1. Those are my 3 points. I'm going to take my ruler, draw my line, connect the dots. Make sure that you have the work on your paper and the graph before you move on. Alright, so now we've shown you how to graph a line using slope-intercept form. The next thing we're going to do is write a linear equation in slope-intercept form. Alright, I want you to write this, number 7, write the word slope equals 1 over 4. And y-intercept equals 4. We're simply going to plug this into the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. All we're doing is plugging in our m and our b. The y and the x stay exactly where they are, exactly like they are. So we're simply plugging in our m, our slope for m, so 1/4 for m and 4 for b. So you need to write the problem, y equals mx plus b, and then the final equation with the information plugged in. Make sure you have that down before you move on. Y equals 1/4 x plus 4. Number 8, write this down. Slope equals -2. Y-intercept equals -5. We're going to write this again in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. You're going to plug your -2 in for m and your -5 in for b, giving you y equals -2x plus -5 or -5. Make sure you have that down before you move on. Write down number 9. Slope equals 0. Y-intercept equals 9. We're plugging this into y equals mx plus b. We're going to substitute in the 0 for the m, and the b is 9. Now, you know that anything times 0 is going to give us 0, so we're going to actually go ahead and leave this out in our final form, and it's going to become y equals 9 because 0 times x is 0, so we go ahead and omit that. Make sure that you have y equals 9 down, and just in case you're wondering what that looks like on a graph, think for a moment if it's going to be horizontal or vertical. It has a 0 slope, and we've talked about 0 slope, so that's what this graph would look like. It would be a horizontal line with a 0 slope, y equals 9. This is the last one that we're going to do on your video. We'll do number 10 in class tomorrow. Thank you for watching.